Today on the Star Trek Critic, we are going to meet the Devil in Devil's Due, and the episode starts with Data meeting someone who works for the Devil, or someone at least. The first point is lost for Data using 2 contractions. If he can use contractions reading a script, the smartest android in the galaxy can program himself to use contractions. Picard says freeze program. The ghost goes out, the fire goes out, but the lights still flicker, so -1 point. Data says his mentors are Stanislavski, Adler, and Garnov. Picard says, Data, shouldn't your mentor be Patrick Stewart, a famous Shakespearean actor who starred in A Christmas Carol for several years? Data says, isn't that the same guy who starred in Life Force, a movie which bombed horribly even though there's a naked woman all the way through? Then Picard says, come on Data, let me show you the airlock. Of course, method acting is foreshadowing what's going to happen later in the show. Look at this extra, she's like, oh, I get to see Patrick Stewart and Brent Spiner. And this poor extra almost slammed into him. Riker calls, Captain Picard, please report to the bridge. Picard says, I'm the captain, I don't report to anybody. 1 point lost here. Picard says, on my way, right when he hits that communicator, so they might not hear it. 1 point lost for a single set of doors on the turbo lift. The scientists on Ventax II are under attack and expect our help. Once again, our tax money is used to get people out of trouble they knew they were getting into. Riker performs Picard maneuver number 1. Worf says, I number 1. Another point lost for opening credits more than 6 minutes into the show. Dr. Clark talks about what life is like on Ventax II, but Picard is still thinking, didn't you try to kidnap a bunch of kids a few years ago? Ventax II really does have a unique history. The whole planet reformed itself by making a deal with the Devil. Picard thinks the first baseman is the Devil? Akos Jared, the leader of Ventax II, honestly has no backbone at all, does he? So the woman playing Ardra must have really read up on Ventaxian history. Picard says, we're here to help. Jared says, well, it doesn't really matter because we're screwed. And he really doesn't know where the hostages are. And on Ventax, you can't say Ardra, like you can't say Voldemort. Picard wouldn't normally go down, but once he heard there were ancient scrolls, the Tomb Raider in him kicked in. Worf clucks like a mother hen this time instead of Riker. Picard says, well, you're just gonna come down with me. And we'll take Deanna because having a girl down there might soften him up. Look at this beautiful matte painting with people running frantically all over the place. Picard beams down and they all step into the wrestling ring. Data says, there's no reason to be afraid of the earthquakes. Akos Jared says, you can't understand, I'm a diversity hire, I have no skills in this. Picard's like, so you can't even find the hostages? And now arrives one of the most entertaining villains of Star Trek history. Yes! And they're still running. The leader of the planet volunteers to be her live-in love slave because he has no skills at doing anything else. Then he says, punish me, not my people. But she's like, who said anything about punishing? Jared says, I'm kind of into that stuff and punishment sounded fun. The late Marta Dubois played an excellent con artist pretending to be the Devil. She should get more recognition on the Star Trek villains list, but unfortunately doesn't get her due credit. And she is into kinky stuff, she'll let him know when she wants him on his knees. Picard says, Ardra, keep up the good work. Then he sings her his favorite Who song. Then she says, Picard, I want you to be my live-in love slave, not that spineless jellyfish Akos Jared. Deanna says, the entire planet is worried you're going to enslave the population. And Ardra says, yup, that's true, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Did you notice Ardra does her magic tricks all in the same place, where she beamed in, when she got the contract, and when she turned into Feklar, which is a red flag that she can only do the magic tricks in certain places. Picard says, I want to see that contract, not because I want to help these people, but to steal artifacts from the vault like the Tomb Raider that I am. Picard wants to know if Data can examine the scrolls. Jared says, I have no will of my own anymore. Ardra says, yeah, I'm hot stuff, I have that effect on people. Then Ardra tells Jared to free the hostages, but Jared has no idea where they are. I don't think we're ever going to see those hostages again. Ardra really has the hots for Picard and thinks that he should have the hots for her. And then Picard quotes Mae West.
Goodness had nothing to do with it, dearie.
And again, Picard starts talking right when he taps the communicator. So when I was recording the show, I got this weird cut of a clip. Check this out.
The hostages are being released. This is...
Beverly has less than 5 lines in this episode, so -1 point. And don't tell me it's because she's pregnant, because that's sexist. They're convinced she's a con artist from the start, but they still have to prove it And they have to prove it to Jared because he has no backbone. Picard says she has an incredibly focused mind and she's totally focused on me because I'm hot stuff. 1 point lost here. No one in the back said anything about her presence on the bridge. And who was flying the ship when they were in the conference room? This devil has some interesting powers. The transporter room says I number 2. Check this out. The chair is between Beverly and the camera to hide her baby bump. Ardra is really quick, isn't she? Data comes back and says the Ventaxians are screwed. This is where Ardra screws up though. By saying she owns the Enterprise, now they have to get involved. And Data says, yep, we're screwed too. 1 point lost for Captain's Log talking down to the audience because they think we forget everything during the commercials. Currently, there is no hard evidence that P.T. Barnum made this phrase. 300 years in the future, the rumor still continues. Picard already figured out what happened 1,000 years ago, and now he's going to boast about it for the next 47 minutes. There may be a real Ardra in their mythology, but if a real Ardra was there when the contract was signed, she would have shown up. Data says the first baseman knows what's going on. Picard says, Data, I'm glad we're having this discussion. It's about time you got a real Shakespearean actor as a mentor. Data says, I number 3. 1 point lost here. People don't fall asleep with books on their chest. Now you learn the true intentions of Ardra. She wants to get into Picard's pants. This is sexual harassment. How do you complain to the boss of the devil? Now she's dressed as one of the characters from A Christmas Carol. 1 point lost here. She would have appeared as Deanna in a nightgown. When Picard has made this offer, he can only think of one thing.
Well, I could stay a bit longer.
But that's not what happened, and he ended up back on the surface. Picard's thinking, why is there a rat maze on the wall? Worf says, I number 4. The transporters are out. Ardra's ship is really good at hiding itself. Worf says, I number 5, so it's time for a drink.
We like to drink, 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 drink.
Did Picard put on any Ventaxian clothes while he waited for his uniform? We will never know. Look close so you can see the reflection of the Enterprise in their front window, so shout out to special effects. Data found the loophole. A contract dispute was done by arbitration. There must have been more than one over the past 1,000 years, but does that mean that they will settle this on Judge Judy? 1 point lost here. They did not try to bump into the ship once it disappeared to see if it was still there. Another point lost here. There is no way a cloaked ship could make the Enterprise invisible without putting a lot of energy itself. They would have seen it. No more running around frantically on the planet. Ardra shows up and says, ha ha, I stole your ship. Picard says, you're a fraud. He's not getting laid tonight. Picard's offer really doesn't amount to anything. Ardra wants Picard to willingly be her manslave. How is this line allowed on a TV show for kids? Data is concerned his skills at interpreting Ventaxian law will cause Picard to lose. Picard says, Data, losing means I get to be her live-in love slave for life. I win either way. Akos Jared describes just how his ancestors changed their dying planet into an agrarian paradise, but still doesn't realize the people of the planet did all the work and not Ardra. What a moron. Picard says Ardra didn't do anything, so she's a fraud. Shout out to the humor involved in this trial. However, right now Data looks like he's trying to let out a really good fart. 1 point lost here. There is no way you can have a Western magnetic pole. Ardra says, I'm awesome, I won the case. Data says, let's go to lunch. Geordi finally discovered a cloaked ship is cloaking the Enterprise. He would have found it sooner, but it was in the script to take this long. This is a Borg signal from the best of both worlds, so minus 1 point. 1 point lost here. For some reason, during that 1 hour, Ardra didn't realize she lost contact with her ship. Ardra tries to sneak out, but Jared finally gets a backbone and calls the police. Jared says, thank you, Picard, you saved our lives. Picard says, well, if you'd quit cowering under the couch, you would have saved yourselves like your ancestors did 1,000 years ago. Ardra says, Picard, it would have been more fun if you lost and been my live-in love slave. Picard is thinking, yeah, I'll probably be taking a trip to the holodeck later tonight. The planet is at peace again. The Enterprise flies off into the sunset. Picard has his stolen artifact to sell on the black market, but unfortunately, the people of Ventax II forgot that 1,000 years ago they also changed their calendar to fit their new agrarian society. And 1 month later, which is 1,000 years on the old calendar, the real Ardra returned and enslaved them all, since the contract was actually real. Who were the people of Ventax II? Tom McGee was a wrestler and one of the world's strongest men. Thad Lamy was the devil. Marcelo Tubert was born in Argentina with 166 screen credits, including Knight Rider, The West Wing, and will return in Star Trek Picard. and I think he likes to fish. This is the late Paul Lambert's second time on Star Trek. After World War II, he used his GI Bill to pay for acting school, which got him 135 screen credits, including Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, and Blue Thunder. And the late Marta Dubois, a great Star Trek villain, was born in Panama. She had 62 screen credits, including Voyager's McBride and Magnum's wife in Magnum P.I. Unfortunately, an aneurysm took her at age 65, which really sucks. Devil's Due, an episode with an excellent underrated villain and well-timed humor, gets a score of 85. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click that like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.